Hey guys, tonight we're stepping through the smoke-wreathed arches of antiquity, from the yawning chasm of chaos, where the first tremors of creation echoed, to the gleaming summit of Olympus, where thunderbolts danced like vengeful phantoms, unraveling the epic tapestry of gods, titans, and mortals whose fates were forged in fire and deceit. You'll taste the bitter tang of ambrosia dripping from golden chalices as ambushes brood beneath laurel-shaded groves. Feel the slick chill of obsidian temple floors echo beneath your sandals, and hear the distant clash of bronze shields as heroes marched under banners stained with destiny. Before we plunge into these ancient sagas of power, betrayal, and cosmic wonder, smash that like button and subscribe. Your devotion stokes the flames of our mythic voyage. Now, light your torch, cinch your cloak, and let the whisper of ancient prophecies guide you into an odyssey where gods walk among us and legends ignite the night. What if the cosmos had emerged from a gaping void of hush and oblivion? In that boundless void, a spark of possibility glimmered across an endless ebony canvas. A shapeless force called chaos lingered on the edge of being, savouring the copper promise of unborn stars. From this misty cradle came Gaia's lush pulse and Eros's flicker of longing, each vibrating with unseen resonance. Night spread its cloak across the void, and day surged forth in piercing light. Long ago, Homer's voice unfurled this story in lyrical rhythm before scribes inscribed it on papyrus. That invocation reverberated through marble halls, summoning listeners with ageless gravitas. Gaia emerged next, her flesh as cool and damp as loam. Her contours stretched across the void, evoking boundless potential. Eros followed, delicate yet potent, bearing the soft whisper of unseen wings. He fanned sparks of connection, igniting life's grand designs. Out of this primal duet emerged Night, exuding an aroma both rich and elusive. Its sable hues cloaked the newborn cosmos in layers woven from mystery. Day breached the horizon in a burst of radiance, shattering darkness with piercing beams. Its golden warmth carried the flavor of sun-warmed earth, promising renewal. Amid the clash of extremes, Tartarus emerged, a gaping chasm that swallowed all light. This void, hushed like a sealed vault, harbored the echoes of judgment yet to come. Its walls exhaled a cold so profound it seemed to graze flesh with unseen fingers. Chaos, formless and raw, retreated to the margins, allowing order to weave into being. Order inched forward, drawn by Gaia's clarion summons. Imbalance persisted, as creation's first breaths weighed heavy with unspoken strife. As Gaia burgeoned with life, her will solidified against injustice's faint whisper. Night and day, entwined in endless embrace, introduced the cosmos to its inaugural ballet of light and shadow. Their union blended serene continuity with jagged rupture. Stars kindled along the horizon, hinting at tales yet unwritten. In this freshly formed realm, Titans awakened, their colossal silhouettes casting vast shadows. Darkness spilled across the young earth, weaving threads of awe and fear. Yet under their vast feet, life's tapestry unfolded in quiet persistence. Gaia whispered through currents of wind, her words riding the unseen breezes. Each gust carried tales of creation's inaugural sighs. Eros, ever vigilant, imprinted their spirits with a hunger both perilous and sacred. The air shimmered with possibility. Cultural memory would later hail this era as the dawn of existence. Oral poets recited its marvels beside flickering hearths. Poets' chants echoed against vaulted cave ceilings. Through these retellings, later mortals perceived a faint shimmer of eternity. The reason proved simple. This origin story bound each living soul to a shared cosmic lineage. Its resonance reverberated through temples and hearths alike. Time itself remained tentative, marked by the gentle pulse of unshifted seasons. Existence transformed irrevocably from emptiness to a vibrant mosaic. Every star and stone bore the imprint of that primal exhalation. Memory of Tartarus's abyss persisted, offering a silent vow of retribution to future transgressors. A solitary wind carried the distant clatter of primordial chains. The stage then awaited Titans, ready to seize supremacy and defy their creators in epic conflict. This prologue inscribed its mark on the cosmos's ledger, granting immortality to its narrators. What if the earliest giants exhaled from the core of Gaia herself? At first light, Oceanus's boundless waters churned with a deep growl. Hyperion's amber glow hovered at the horizon, transforming the sky into molten bronze. Selene glided across newborn skies, her pale glow brushing hidden streams. Together, these primeval deities commanded raw forces, igniting the dawn of celestial sovereigns. Gaia trembled under Uranus's oppressive weight, quakes rippling through her fertile plains. Uranus's shadow unfurled across the land, smothering fledgling shoots with bone-deep chill. His baritone voice rolled through cavernous depths, drowning out the murmur of new shoots. In defiance, Gaia's resolve crystallized into a blade hewn from bedrock. Beneath storm-gripped clouds, the sickle's face gleamed, honed sharper than obsidian. She concealed it in a grotto bathed in moonlight, where moss exhaled the scent of rich earth. At faint whispers of revolt, the Titans stirred, inhaling air thick with brine and hope. Cronus sensed a vibration in his chest, each pulse mirroring the ocean's surge. Then, beneath a sky bruised by thunderclouds, he snatched the blade and strode forward. Uranus recoiled as stone bit flesh, unleashing agony that rocked Earth's foundations. His blood fountained into the sea, turning waves into burnished copper. That strike rent the ancient order and sowed terror among the gods. Across lashing surf, Aphrodite rose, her radiance as soft as morning light on rippling tides. Salt and rose scented the breeze beneath her new dawn. Mortals would later murmur her beauty, unaware it was born of divine upheaval. Cronus wasted no moment crowning himself with sculpted laurels, sealing his triumph in gold. He revelled in power's rush, tasting victory's sharp tang. Electricity crackled around him, humming with the resonance of struck iron. His reign ushered in an age of splendor, sunlight warming marble pillars. Yet hidden seers whispered of shadows darker than any he had cast. Ancient scrolls predicted his fall, ink quivering under trembling hands. Still, his voice rolled through sky and soil, commanding earth and heavens alike. Titans feasted on winds laced with orchard scents and fertile fields. Their laughter rang across groves and mountain corridors. Beneath their celebration, embers of revolt lay hidden, waiting. Cronus's sickle, dust-laced and memory-steeped, hung at his side like a solemn vow. He twisted its handle in mist, summoning currents of silent dread. Earth trembled beneath him, its pulse matching his ambition. Unborn mortals would one day feel destiny's tremor stirring their souls. Bards inscribed this rebellion in hushed verses by flickering hearths. Their words climbed on air scented with pine resin. Each breeze carried whispers of Cronus's name. His rule seemed eternal, etched into cliff faces and temple stones. Laughter like rolling anvil strikes echoed through valleys. At last, Gaia watched from shadowed groves, her patience flowing beneath hidden springs. She understood that even the keenest blade would dull against time's relentless grind. His golden rule bore cracks that glinted beneath its polished veneer. Fate stood vigilant in silence, ready to rewrite the order he seized. Under a blood-streaked dusk, the cosmos paused in hushed expectation. A new chapter of revolt awaited, ready to upend heaven's fragile balance. Who would have foreseen that an age of radiant abundance could give rise to its own shadows? Beneath the Titan King's dominion, fields glowed with ripened grain at their sunlit peak. The ground radiated heat like a smooth stone under relentless sun. Marble courtyards bristled with statues of the Devourer, their carved visages glinting in the noon glare. Mortals whispered his name with awe and trepidation, their speech falling to a tremor. A prophecy inscribed on obsidian slabs deep within mist-shrouded caverns predicted his downfall. The warning drifted among silent night airs. Cronus, suspicious of hidden threats, sank deeper into dread under unseen scrutiny. Then he consumed each newborn godling, their cries vanishing into his insatiable hunger. Their flesh dissolved, leaving distant echoes reverberating off cavern stones. Rhea shivered as she witnessed each child slip into darkness before their fates could bloom. Her grief lingered with the sharp tang of unripened berries. In desperation, she sought solace in moonlit groves where dew clung to silent ferns. There, she conspired with Earth Mother under quivering foliage. Yet sneaking the polished stone into his grasp required stealth colder than frost. The stone, wrapped in linens scented with lavender, touched Cronus's lips under false pretense. He swallowed it in one gulp, its heft echoing like a drumbeat in his gut. Unaware of the ruse, he roared in satisfaction. Meanwhile, Zeus fled to Crete's rugged summits, guided by nymphs whose laughter rippled like distant bells. They brought him to secret caverns, where stalactites dripped cold rivulets. There, he was nourished on honeyed goat's milk, its sweetness curling on his tongue. Each night, the roar of crashing surf lulled him into dreams of destiny. As Zeus matured, his muscles coiled with power, and his determination solidified into unbreakable will. He discovered Cronus's cruelty in tales etched on amber scrolls. Each story sparked his wrath as a bolt tearing through silent clouds. The scent of smouldering wood trailed him through forest corridors. Later, cultures preserved these secret rites in silent temples and carved reliefs. Mortals, centuries later, would marvel at his cunning and strength. Gaia, from her hidden throne beneath mountain roots, sent strategies on subtle tremors. Her murmur rumbled through bedrock. In secret grottos, fragile alliances took shape, leaving Titans uneasy beneath Cronus's rule. Oceanus and Hyperion wavered, their loyalty shifting like restless winds. They feared that a single spark of revolt might unravel the cosmic weave. Yet a spark of hope glimmered in Zeus's heart, as brief and keen as a newly honed blade. In clandestine councils, their schemes spread out like constellations sketched on cavern floors. He harnessed thunder's raw force, its vibration coursing through his palms. The night air hummed with possibility while he tested his newfound might. His laughter rang through the night, heralding the shift to come. This covert champion, once swaddled in linens, now stood as destiny's razor edge. Each breath unleashed tremors that rippled under the earth's crust. His presence resonated through olive groves accompanied by cicadas' drone. Tales of his upbringing trickled into mortal markets, laced with saffron's aroma. Artisans then carved his visage on temple doors, their eyes etched with defiance. Still, the Devourer remained unaware of the tempest gathering beyond his palace gates. His complacent mind failed to sense fate's sharpening edge. Under those gilded vaults, the buried prophecy pulsed through the stone as though alive. Destiny's tapestry, woven from chaos and order, awaited its final knot. The first act was complete. The next would erupt in flame. In these hidden depths, the stage stood ready for Zeus's vengeance. As Olympus held its breath, the cosmos quivered on the verge of upheaval. Mortals and gods alike would soon witness the collapse of Cronus's reign. This chapter ended as shadows merged into a silent vow of reckoning. In its echo, audiences sensed rebellion's heartbeat quicken within them. The tale of Titan and Liberator was poised to thunder through ages. And so the covert war lay simmering, poised for the spark that would unleash its fury. What if the seeds of rebellion were sown by loyalties tempered in hidden flames? In clandestine caverns beneath the Earth's crust, the Storm King consulted primordial beings whose voices rolled like distant thunder. The subterranean atmosphere carried echoes of 100 hammer strikes. Cyclopes, their single eye gleaming like a smelted gem, bent over glowing forges. The Thunderer's alliance with master artisans sparked the creation of weapons fated to upend the heavens. The Hecaton shares awakened from centuries of stasis, their stone limbs echoing a metallic clank as they rose. Their many arms fanned out in unyielding arcs, each finger bristling with latent power. Torches flickered under sudden gusts. The Sky Sovereign spoke a vow that cut through despair, kindling hope in anxious hearts. In response, the Hecaton shares swore fealty, their thunderous roar rattling subterranean pillars. Cyclopes hammered storm forges, each blow resonating through the cavern. The smith's eyes burned amber in the forge's flicker. Shortly after, the smiths offered the thunderbolt's core to the Sky Sovereign, its crackle humming with raw potential. The thunderbolt pulsed with electricity that prickled the Storm King's arms. Poseidon inhaled the brine-scented breeze as he grasped the trident's prongs. His grip carved currents through wine-dark waters, each wave a sovereign decree. Moments later, the Lord of the Underworld accepted the helm of invisibility, its shadow-cool surface drinking in light. Under its hood, his footsteps fell silent, muffled by the hush of abandoned tombs. This gift made him the unseen arbiter of souls, whispering final verdicts. Alliances coalesced beneath starlit roofs, etched with ancient glyphs. The metallic tang of power lingered on the tongue. Titans watched the uprising from fiery caverns. Subsequently, the Thunderer extended an oath of kinship to Oceanus, whose currents hummed with restless energy. Oceanus pledged rolling tides and hidden depths to the war effort. Selene watched from above, her silver glow illuminating clandestine meetings. Her presence lent calm amidst brewing turbulence. Furious Cyclopes reshaped glowing ore, forging weapons honed to razor precision. Each armament became a living conduit for heavenly wrath. Elders such as Chaos and Cronus questioned allegiances as the earth trembled beneath them. Yet the promise of overthrow glowed brighter than any sunset for the oppressed. He traced the lightning's arc across his palm, feeling its electric charge beneath his skin. Warriors felt a charge prickling beneath their skin. The cavern walls shook with whispered oaths. Zeus's coalition moved beneath Midnight's velvet cloak, shadows sliding over jagged stones. Hecaton shares marched with titanic strides, each footfall cracking bedrock. They inhaled air scented with pine. Their combined might surged against the Titans entrenched above. Mortals later carved reliefs, portraying these allies as giants embodying both mercy and vengeance. Temple priests chanted tales of their feats through columned halls. Worship of the deliverers spread through villages and valleys alike. Artisans etched their likenesses, including the Cyclope's single eye, onto bronze doors. Hushed legends claimed the ocean roared in celebration. This moment sealed the pact between sky, sea, and underworld, uniting realms fractured eons before. Clouds convulsed with lightning. Beneath that tumult, the allied forces readied themselves for fate's grand conflict. The stage was set for a struggle destined to shake ages and etch its fury on mortal memory. As thunder rumbled overhead, each ally felt destiny's tug. The new dawn hovered at the brink of chaos and order. Hope flared amid the blackest dark. The allies of the new dawn stood ready to challenge the old order. What if the heavens themselves transformed into a battlefield of thunderous tempests and crackling lightning? A decade passed as Olympus and Tartarus engaged in an unending clash of celestial wrath. The atmosphere reeked of ozone, scorching the nostrils. Earth's crust shuddered beneath thunder's footfalls, each tremor reverberating through vaulted caverns. The fire-forged craftsmen launched bolts that tore roiling clouds into shards of violet energy. Hundred-handers wrestled titans amid a smouldering inferno. Then cracks split the battlefield, spiders of ruin across the ground. Seismic waves sent plumes of ash swirling against an ember-dyed sky. Warriors on both sides felt sinews tremble under world-shaking impacts. Seizing the moment, the Storm King summoned torrents that chilled peaks in sheets of ice. Oceanus answered with surging waves that battered ramparts with a briny assault. Reeling under the onslaught, the Titans groaned as their massive forms buckled. From shadowed depths, the underworld lord emerged, his helm a dark wraith beneath the gloom. He slipped through the chaos unseen. A thunderclap split the sky as he wove between combatants. Battles raged in caverns filled with scorching steam. Eruptions hissed through fissures deep within the earth. Dust scoured throats with every inhalation. At last, the Titans toppled, bound by chains born of Cyclopean fire and hammered steel. The shackles cooled with a hiss, releasing steam sharp with sulfur. Stripped of power, the 12 Titans sat shackled upon cavernous thrones. Atlas strained against unbreakable bonds, his shoulders holding the quaking firmament. His breath came in raspy bursts, each exhale defying destiny. Prometheus received lenient judgment, his torment eased to solitary confinement beneath windswept crags. Themis walked free, her scales level beneath unyielding mercy. Lightning bolts crackled in rhythmic pulses across smouldering fields. Acrid smoke hung at dawn, staining the air with gloom. Titans cursed the very air, their voices rolling with the weight of collapsed mountains. Meanwhile, mortals witnessed tremors reshape coastlines and carve new channels. They trembled at the sight of Leviathan footprints pressed into sodden earth. Religious orders later inscribed these events on temple walls in trembling script. Priests interpreted celestial storms as omens of a new world order. An eerie hush settled over the plains. A crimson haze lingered where lightning had singed hapless oaks. Peace emerged from fury's crucible, fragile and new. Zeus stood atop a shattered summit, his gaze sweeping valleys draped in twilight's purple veil. His chest rose with measured breaths, each exhale echoing triumph. From that moment, the Titans were consigned to Tartarus's abyss, its gates sealing in finality. A low rumble echoed behind iron bars, where Prometheus listened with chains of mercy. Atlas, condemned to bear the sky, sank to his knees under eternity's crushing expanse. Hecatonkhares, their loyalty unwavering, sealed the fortress with colossal stone wards. Under that silent covenant, Olympus ascended unmarred by rebellion's shadow. Divine laws settled upon blooming fields of worship. But in hidden shrines, priests cautioned that power held in chains could rise anew. Fresh moss grew over battlefield scars, its green tendrils weaving life across charred earth. Mortals later celebrated this triumph with flame-lit festivals, masks carved in Cyclopean likeness. Artisans sculpted reliefs of chained titans, their eyes hollow yet brimming with defiance. Legends of the Titanomachy spread on scented parchment, inked with fumes of crushed pine resin. The cause was clear. Cosmic order had been reclaimed through unity and unyielding resolve. Ultimately, Olympus's golden spires gleamed once more beneath skies washed clean of war's stain. The balance of power had tilted at last. Olympus, triumphant, prepared to forge a new age from victory's shattered remains. What if destiny was sealed by a roll of celestial dice? In the dim afterglow after war's fury subsided, Zeus summoned his brothers to a fractured summit. The night air smelled faintly of ozone as three siblings raised polished lots under cracked marble. This act divided dominions among them, forging order from chaos's remains. Hence, Zeus claimed the sky, Poseidon the sea, and Hades the shadowed realm below. The lots, carved from starlit bronze, clattered and resounded across the summit's alabaster floors. Olympus's heights hummed with latent majesty under the weight of new authority. Concurrently, a council of 12 divinities convened beneath amber-hued clouds to legislate cosmic decree. The first statutes, etched in flaming script, bound gods and mortals to revered codes of justice. This charter laid foundations for priesthoods that chanted its verses in sacred halls. At Delphi, the Pythia spoke wind-whispered riddles to pilgrims around the sacred tripod. Worshippers, garlanded in laurel, waited by the sacred tripod as dust swirled around their feet. Oracular pronouncements rolled across olive-clad hills like gentle surf upon sandstone shores. Accordingly, mortals learned to read omens in trembling flame. Dodona's ancient oak shimmered with Zeus's counsel at dawn. Pilgrims careful of slippery moss whispered their questions beneath those ancient boughs. Following this, the Olympian council gathered within marble halls bathed in sunlight. Their voices echoed like chimes struck by forgotten winds across vaulted ceilings. Hymns of unity hummed through the halls. Statues of deities watched from niches with unyielding stone eyes. Still, the bright cohesion concealed undercurrents of rivalry and desire. The thunderbolt gleamed in Zeus's grasp. Poseidon's trident bore brine from the depths. Hades' helm swallowed candlelight. Beneath this veneer, subtle debts tangled like vines in hidden groves. Consequently, divine politics flickered in sacrificial flames. Yet, the mortal realm felt these machinations through shifting seasons. Farmers swore their barley sprouts curved towards sunrise in homage to Zeus's newly minted rain. Sailors saw waves cresting in spiral patterns off Aegean shores, crediting Poseidon's unseen commands. Funeral rites grew solemn in vineyards, shadowed by Hades' realm. Temples arose with columns gleaming like polished ivory. Priestesses wove garlands of myrtle and laurel, their fingers brushing rough twigs smooth with devotion. Offerings of wine and grain glistened on altars. Voices of priests intoned laws carved on bronze tablets. Soon, oracles multiplied in hidden shrines, their prophecies scribbled on parchment stained with ochre dust. Cultural memory would later preserve this council as the genesis of divine jurisprudence. Sculptors immortalized the scene. Zeus seated upon an alabaster throne, lightning arcs framing his braided beard. Poseidon's robe billowed like storm clouds. Hades' cloak flickered with emberless gloom. Pilgrims left votive figurines at temple doorsteps, their prayers whispered. Thus, worship spread from marble citadels to humble hillside shrines. Stones bearing carved laurel wreaths marked sacred precincts where mortals sought divine favor. Festivals of thunder honored these rulings as cycles of gratitude and fear. Markets buzzed with chatter of new laws that guided sailors' oaths and farmers' pacts. Nonetheless, beneath pious exteriors, human hearts pulsed with anxious reverence and dread. The scent of incense lingered in the air, crafting an atmosphere ripe for awe. Children sat wide-eyed as elders recounted tales of cosmic arbitration. All this cemented a new epoch where gods and mortals danced in fragile harmony. Finally, Olympus's marble ramparts gleamed with triumphant purpose, heralding laws ordained beyond mortal reach. Even you, wandering the marble corridors of history, might sense the echoes of those celestial judgments. What if the world you knew vanished beneath a single, unrelenting deluge? The sky darkened to obsidian hues, heralding Zeus's decision to purge the earth. Lightning fractured the firmament as a wounded beast, thunder growling through empty valleys. Seas surged to swallow mountain peaks, their briny sting coating the tongues of doomed cities. At the same time, Deucalion and Pyrrha clung to the arc-stamped timbers, its planks groaning under the torrent. The storm raged without mercy, driving them toward an uncertain horizon. Only their unwavering faith kept them drifting amid the colossal waves. The world below vanished beneath rolling waters, forests reduced to scattered wreckage. The howling wind carried their prayers like distant echoes through a hollow void. At last, Zeus's wrath spent. An eerie calm settled over the flooded lands. The ark came to rest atop Mount Parnassus, its hull slick with rainwater. Clear skies emerged, revealing a crimson sunrise mirrored in vast hollows. Deucalion opened the hatch to a silence as dense as granite. They stepped onto terrain, stripped of all human touch. The ground felt cool and rough beneath their feet, its surface etched like weathered parchment. Salt crystals glittered in every fissure, a stark reminder of the flood's reach. In that reverent hush, Pyrrha breathed freedom, mingled with ash and brine. They beheld a reborn landscape, empty hills stretching into golden light. Their hearts thundered in their chests, echoing across the silent peaks. Sparks of hope glimmered in their eyes, igniting a future on unspoiled land. Zeus's decree lingered as both judgment and promise. Deucalion recalled Gaia's ancient vow to repopulate the earth. Bereft of old-world remnants, humanity awaited a fresh beginning. Pyrrha gathered stones from the silver-white shore. Each smooth pebble gleamed in her palm like a silent pledge. As she cast them behind her, new forms emerged from their cold shells. This act coaxed men and women to rise from earthen seeds. Stones sprouted into humans, reminiscent of buds unfurling in spring. Their forms solidified beneath a jade sky, warmed by dawn's first rays. Their voices rose in a chorus that resonated through mountain air. The flood's memory etched itself into their bones. That haunting legacy guided rites for generations to appease vengeful gods. In later ages, poets recounted this saga as proof of divine wrath. Traditions wove the deluge into hymns and temple frescoes. This tale shaped subsequent flood myths across the Mediterranean. Deucalion's journey became an emblem of endurance amid ruin. Oracles invoked his name to herald renewal after hardship. Pyrrha's courage found tribute in sacrificial ceremonies. Their union embodied humanity's link to divine ancestry. The world's rebirth carried echoes of mercy and stern counsel. Communities reenacted the stone-casting rite as a moral compass. Thus, the myth endured through countless generations. Today, the deluge's imagery survives in art washed with watery hues. The rhythmic roll of waves still evokes fragile survival. This legendary flood carved the human imagination, like a sculptor's tool. New lands flourished beneath skies purged by relentless rain. Ancient storytellers passed down echoes of Deucalion's resolve. Each retelling cast fresh light on mortality under divine design. And so, from destruction's depths sprang the dawn of humankind's next chapter. The world began anew, fashioned from both stone and enduring faith. What if one woman's inquisitiveness unleashed the world's suffering? Hephaestus shaped Pandora from clay, her skin a warm ochre. The gods bestowed upon her a beauty glimmering in soft lunar light. Thus, Zeus entrusted her with a sealed jar, its earthen brown surface engraved with ominous glyphs. Mortal curiosity edged Pandora to the jar's lid, drawn by a whisper of unseen promise. The air of Olympus hummed with expectancy. Golden rays filtered through marble columns. With trembling fingers, she lifted the lid, revealing a silence as deep as midnight. This release set sinuous forms free. Plagues, envy, grief, each a bitter guest at the world's feast. Their shrieks tumbled through valleys, echoing like shards of fractured hopes. Yet one gentle sound endured, a soft exhalation of hope nestled at the bottom. Pandora's gasp sounded like tribal drums. The grim spectres sprang from the jar as feral beasts freed from iron bonds. Birds took flight with frantic wing beats, their calls piercing the silent dawn. Nonetheless, Pandora clung to the jar's base, eyes wide with alarm. Wind whipped her hair into a tangled crown. The new maladies slithered across earth, staining fields with ashen footprints. Soon villagers awoke with throbbing aches. Homes echoed with laments as families faced unfamiliar sorrow. Villagers tasted bitterness akin to gall in crowded markets. Ambition then spread like creeping vines, overtaking contentment in its path. Farmers felt the tremor of plagues through their fields. Hearts hardened under a merciless sun. Craftsmen lamented broken tools, their hands stained with splintered timber. Nature cast its own beauty into cruel contrast. Vibrant blossoms wilted under sorrow's pall. Poets lamented in odes, their quills scratching tragic symphonies. Musicians played mournful lyres, strings humming with collective woe. Mortals pleaded at temple thresholds, their prayers shimmering like candle smoke. Still, hope lingered, a slender reed, bending but never breaking. This ember of resilience glowed within wounded souls, defying despair's shadow. Pain became humanity's companion, yet hope served as an unbreakable lifeline. So mortals wove sorrow into art, each lament a thread in life's tapestry. Memory held this trial as a storm yet to pass. Pandora became legend, her name whispered in hearthside tales. Her story shaped moral parables in clay tablets and frescoed walls. Sculptures depicted her stance, jar in hand, gazing toward an uncertain horizon. Hence, the myth endured as both caution and comfort for generations. Parents spoke her name softly when curiosity beckoned children toward danger. Instead, scholars debated the jar's contents, whether evil's essence was born or simply released. Even so, every account agreed that hope alone remained tethered within unopened reaches. In later rituals, survivors offered small charms to propitiate capricious deities. These rites echoed the jar's dual nature, ruin and redemption entwined. The world's sorrows shaped empathy. Humans discovered compassion amid suffering. Pain served as the crucible forging resilience. In this crucible of loss, hope's fragile blossom took root. Pandora's legacy thus became an enduring emblem of human tenacity. Her tale invited each generation to confront darkness without surrender. Through her jar's legacy, mortals learned that suffering and hope were inseparable companions. In whispered prayers, hope's melody outlasted sorrow's dirge. From Pandora's curiosity sprang both humanity's trials and its brightest light. Did a single spark redraw the line dividing gods from mortals? In Olympus's shadowed halls, Prometheus molded clay into humanity's first fragile form. He stole glowing coals from Hephaestus's forge to ignite mortal ambition. Early humans gathered around dancing flames that bathed cave walls in molten amber light. Fire's warmth dissolved their fear, and unleashed an age of invention. The air reeked of soot. Zeus raged at the defiance flickering within human hearts. Thunderclouds mustered above Mount Othrys's serrated peaks. Prometheus observed below, his gaze unmoving in obsidian night. The stolen fire hissed, carving flickering silhouettes on startled faces. Granting mortals this gift proved perilous, for fire could nurture or destroy. Red glow traced pitchwood torches, casting faces lined with hope and dread. Villagers erected funeral pyres in his honor, smoke spiraling toward the stratosphere. These rites blossomed into annual festivals where torchlight wove through marble colonnades. Families shared legends by their hearths, each ember sparking fresh tales of defiance. Winter's chill surrendered to hearthside warmth, chimneys exhaling gentle plumes. Olympus's marble thrones grew cold under Zeus's mounting ire. He summoned the fates to judge Prometheus's breach of divine decree. A biting wind swept across the mountaintop as celestial verdicts rang out. Chains of adamantine were commanded, gleaming serpentine beneath frozen stars. Olympian smiths hammered bands barbed against god and titan alike. The metal links bit into his wrists, their cold grip unrelenting. Guardians bound him to Caucasus's sheer cliffs. An obsidian-feathered eagle was tasked with feasting on his liver. At dawn, the bird's talons tore flesh under a bloodless sky. Villages below trembled at his primal cry. Sculptors later carved ivory reliefs steeped in his agony. Bards spilled scarlet ink onto papyrus, chronicling each brutal hour. Yet Prometheus's spirit endured every torment. Winds that swept those crags carried his anguished echoes. Artisans crafted talismans shaped like eagle wings to ward off capricious deities. Temple friezes bore winged firebirds, reminders of celestial flame. In marble form, his bones became pillars, upholding human progress. Hellenic philosophers invoked his tale to champion reason over tyranny. His image transformed into a symbol of bold ingenuity across the Mediterranean. Centuries of firelight ceremonies danced through silent plazas. Historians traced each spark from his gift to the echo of the hammer's strike. Steam engines and electric bulbs carried his defiant flame into the modern era. Revolutionary manifestos bore his name to demand freedom and creation. Laboratory lamps now glow as silent tributes to his rebellion. Though bound and torn, his sacrifice sparked unquenchable hope in mortal veins. Whenever flames spiral beyond control, they echo that original folly. The tang of burning iron still recalls celestial reprisal. His legacy courses through poets' verses and engineers' blueprints alike. His story reminds us that every advancement carries its own risk. His suffering became the furnace forging humanity's relentless curiosity. Bonfires still honor that stolen spark in communities worldwide. Every ember in a campfire is a tribute to his enduring audacity. In classrooms, his myth challenges learners to question authority. Though his flesh bore endless torment, his spirit illuminated an immortal path. Mortals owe their mastery of fire to the Titan who dared to defy Olympus. What if a roaming heifer sparked a lineage of legends? The maiden Io was changed into a heifer by envying deities beneath a copper-tinted dusk. She roamed the plains, her lowing echoing against the wind. Zeus's secret kisses sowed the seeds of fate. A saga of betrayals rippled through generations, culminating in Perseus's birth. Yet Hera's suspicion led her to task Argus Panoptes, the hundred-eyed guardian, with watching the distressed heifer. The air carried the briny scent of the Argolic Gulf. Hermes crept across dunes, each grain pressing softly under his leather-socked feet. He lulled the guardian's vigilance with a song echoing distant reeds. Argus's eyelids closed one by one, each gaze yielding to exhaustion. After the 100 eyes stilled, Hermes's blade, glinted against the gloom. Io burst free, her hoofbeats drumming across the petrified earth. She wandered through scorching valleys, shrouded by a wavering haze. Dodona's seers had whispered a prophecy of her fateful union in Thessaly's rolling meadows. She crossed the straits to Egypt, where priests revered her as the moon's silver reflection on the Nile. Mortal women traced her story in painted pottery, ensuring her trials resonated through centuries. In Argos, Danae bore the Thunderlord's seed in isolation, her chamber suffused with candle smoke. Her infant son Perseus arrived in a wooden chest washed ashore on Seriphos's wind-whipped coast. Salt spray coated the chest's edges in delicate crystals. Polydectes, the king whose voice carried deceptive calm, seized Perseus as a bargaining chip. Perseus grew under the harsh glare of Phineus's scorn, his shoulders broadening with each challenge. He trained with bronze blades, their clashes ringing across the island's fields. Fate drove him to confront the dread Gorgon Medusa at a capricious monarch's whim. Athena herself bestowed a mirrored shield upon him, its surface gleaming in the gloom. Hermes furnished winged sandals, their passage through the air marked by a soft whisper. Perseus flew over snow-capped peaks, the cold gusts biting at his cloak. Wing beats echoed across the peaks. He approached the Gorgon's lair, its marble pillars dripping with mossy moisture. His heartbeat echoed through the cavern. Perseus fixed his gaze on the serpentine locks coiling atop Medusa's head. He angled the shield to catch Medusa's reflection, avoiding her petrifying glare. The crack of her skull under his blade rang out through the chamber. The blow released Pegasus, her newborn foal, shaking the damp air. Perseus grasped Medusa's severed head, its scales glistening beneath a waning moon. He fled the cavern, leaving behind the stench of ancient decay. He encountered Andromeda chained to jagged rocks, a briny mist tangling her dark curls. He struck a bargain with her father Cepheus, liberating her from a sea, beast's maw. Together they traversed sun-drenched islands, where the salt air tasted of hope. Their union would found Mycenae's proud dynasty, a beacon of marble and myth. Whispers of hubris clung to them around every triumph. Perseus's tales were etched into temple friezes that bore the sheen of dawn's first light. His name resonated in sculptors' workshops as they molded clay figures. Cultural memory cast him as a symbol of mortal daring beneath immortal scrutiny. The wind-carved cliffs of Attica still hummed with his legend's ghostly echo. His legacy shaped the heroic ideal that would pulse through epics for a millennium. Even today, statues of the caped hero glint in museum halls. His story taught that courage could bloom from exile's barren soil. It showed that destinies could twist unpredictably. Each new generation would find its own reflection in his mirrored shield. His lineage endured, a living testament to mortal defiance. What happens when a mortal climbs onto a winged steed? Bellerophon was born among Corinth's sun-baked hills, where every boulder radiated midday heat. His armoured sandals resonated in steady rhythm against the slick marble stalls. Athena noticed him and presented a golden bridle that glowed with emerald brilliance. A gust from the nearby sea carried salt across his lips. Pegasus had soared beneath thundercloud formations, his wings churning the air into roiling masses. The stallion's coat felt as smooth as alabaster to the hero's rough palm. The champion breathed hushed invocations that trailed off like distant bells. He climbed the wind-scoured cliff, where the summit jutted into endless cerulean heights. His boots crunched on gravel, scented with sun-warmed earth. A sudden draught lifted the winged beast in a booming flap. The Corinthian braced himself as they burst through swirls of silver mist. Their ascent carved a path across the sapphire vault overhead. Yet peril shadowed their exhilaration, for below roamed the Chimera. The beast exhaled dark smoke that curled along the cracked ground. Its scales shimmered under the scorching sun. A lion's roar thundered against the canyon walls. Bellerophon steered Pegasus above a ridge, scarred by past storms. He gripped his spear as its tip caught the sunlight. He lunged at the Chimar Ra's goat head, brimstone stench filling his nostrils. His spear penetrated horn and sinew, provoking a crack that split the silence. Then came the serpent tail, its hiss piercing the sulphur-laced air. The viper's fangs clattered against steel before it fell silent. The lion's head lunged, its mane billowing like a storm-tossed banner. He shielded the winged steed with arm and blade, his heartbeat hammering in his chest. At last the Chimera collapsed into a heap of smouldering hide. Bellerophon landed in a meadow bathed in rosy dusk. The air carried the sweetness of new blossoms. Soon he was hailed as savior in Coronia, where poets etched his deeds onto ivory tablets. His victory inspired celebrations drenched in crimson wine. Pride swelled within him, warping even his noblest instincts. He dared to scale Olympus's heights, convinced his courage equaled the gods. The summit lay wrapped in jagged ice that cut like shards against his skin. He urged Pegasus onward, ignoring the gathering thunderheads. Zeus then hurled a bolt that split the sky in a flash of silver fire. The shock flung Bellerophon from the saddle into a chill veil of mist. He impacted a mossy ledge, softer than his shattered pride. His body cracked under him in sharp echoes. Pegasus fled, wings beating a sorrowful rhythm into the storm. Bellerophon crawled from the crag, vision blurred. His tattered cloak whispered warnings under the rising moon. He survived, but exile draped him in shadowed solitude. In remote hamlets, he warned listeners with a voice parched and low. Blacksmiths hammered his story onto iron gates of deserted shrines. Folk memory cast him as both hero and cautionary tale, a candle burned too close to wax. His name echoed by hearthside flames. Artists centuries later traced his broken silhouette on cavern walls. His downfall blazed through legend, a fleeting comet in mortal lore. Each retelling held a reflection of mortal ambition. The tale endures as a warning that the sky's heights demand humility. What if power itself proved both salvation and curse? The champion stood poised between Olympus and mortal realms under bruised violet clouds. Hera's simmering jealousy unleashed madness, dragging his thoughts into a storm of crimson visions. In that frenzy, he slaughtered his own children, driven by phantom whispers. Soon, the Pythia at Delphi crackled prophecies beneath flickering torches. The priestess decreed that only feats of near-impossible scale could cleanse his tainted soul. Embracing his penance, the hero accepted 12 labors to purge his cursed mind. At dawn, the first trial lay in Nemea's parched forest, where a lion with bronze-hued hide roared into the hush. He pressed his palm to the creature's coarse mane, its rough strands rasping against his skin. He bound the beast's throat with leather straps, until its roar yielded to silence. That victory draped his shoulders in the lion's pelt, its musk still lingering. In Lerna's fetid marsh, the hydra's many heads writhed within choking vapors. Using a flaming brand from Iolos, he cauterized each severed neck and halted its regrowth. Acrid smoke stung his nostrils as he severed the immortal central head. He dipped his arrows in the beast's venom, a lethal glaze glinting beneath grey clouds. He pursued the golden-horned hind, its antlers flashing in dappled sunlight. Tracking its swift hoofbeats, he pressed through meadows until dusk wrapped the hills in violet hush. The whisper of Artemis's name stayed his arrow, recalling his vow to spare her sacred hind. Then the Erymanthian boar charged through frost-laced pines, its huffing steam misting the clearing. He ensnared the bristling beast in linen nets, dipped in pungent cedar oil. Bound in brazen chains, he delivered the captive to Eurystheus. At Augeas's stables, decades of filth lay compacted, the stench overwhelming. At dawn, the hero diverted 2 rivers, their torrents sweeping away months of decay with thunderous force. Metallic shrieks shattered the marsh as Stymphalian birds swooped. Wielding bronze symbols from Hephaestus's forge, he drove the flocks into frantic flight. Under Crete's moonlight, a Cretan bull pawed at the earth, its hoofbeats reverberating. Gripping the bull's horns, he wrestled the beast into submission through sheer force. Next, Diomedes' man-eating mares bared iron-shod hooves in a stall reeking of fresh blood. Offering their master as prey, he silenced their savage hunger into compliant docility. At the Amazon camp, torchlight flickered through wreaths of sweet myrrh. He negotiated for the Amazon queen's golden belt with respectful words and quiet humility. Yet Hera planted doubt among the warriors, sparking skirmishes until he seized the girdle. Next, he voyaged to Gerion's Isle under a scarlet sun, where a triple-bodied giant guarded crimson cattle. Driving the beasts across barren sands under an unrelenting sky, their lowing echoed hollowly. Within the Hesperides orchard, twilight gilded the apple branches in molten gold. Bound yet wise, Prometheus whispered Atlas's aid, and the Titan bore the heavens long enough for Heracles to seize the luminous fruit. At last, he descended into shadowed underworld gates, where Cerberus's jaws exhaled sulphurous breath. Grasping each snarling head, he felt fur bristle like obsidian shards under his grip. Hades granted safe passage on the condition that he swear no harm. Emerging into pale dawn, he dragged the hound by a braid of gold. Stories of these feats were enshrined in marble friezes and epic hymns echoing beneath torchlight. At his end, his mortal shell was consumed atop Mount Oeta, beneath skies streaked with ember. Zeus drew his spirit to Olympus, transforming him into a god celebrated for thunderous renown. His knotted club and lion-skin cloak rest in silent sanctuaries, reminders that atonement and glory remain intertwined. The legend teaches that redemption often treads the razor's edge between suffering and triumph. What if exile became the spark for an odyssey across uncharted seas? Jason stood in Iolcus's palace, the guilty sunset dyeing the tapestries in deep scarlet. His once proud lineage had been usurped by the tyrant Peleus, whose eyes gleamed coldly in the flicker of torches. The tyrant then demanded that the hero retrieve the Golden Fleece from far-off Colchis. Argus's skilled hands carved the Argo, its hull redolent of fresh oak and pitch. Artisans adorned the prow with a bronze figurehead, its gaze fixed on the open sea. Aboard the ship, 50 heroes assembled, their armor clinking softly. Among them, the labor's champion lounged in detached nonchalance, his breath tasting of iron from dawn's hunt. Orpheus tuned his lyre, each string quivering in crystalline tones. A gentle breeze brought strains of melody that bolstered the crew's resolve. The air felt dense with expectation as the oars sliced through water that tasted of brine. The Dioscuri, Castor, and Pollux joined them, standing shoulder to shoulder in silent solidarity. They set sail beneath a blazing sun that flooded the waves with molten gold. For days they navigated by Orion's belt, whose 3-star line offered steadfast guidance in pitch-black night. They dropped anchor off Lemnos, winds carrying the scent of smouldering hearths. The women's hushed laughter drifted through the docks. He negotiated peace with Queen Hypsipyle, her red-gold hair gleaming beneath lantern glow. The Argonauts refilled their skins with cool water drawn from olive-cracked wells. They departed with the echo of distant drums still pulsing in their ears. Next, they encountered the Symplegades, 2 ancient rocks whose collisions roared through the strait. Jason observed their pattern, noticing that the gap widened for a heartbeat when they recoiled. He signaled the rowers, their hands raw, and salted from relentless exertion. Their synchronized strokes propelled the Argo into the narrow pass amid swirling foam. Oars hammered the water as the slender hull pierced the channel. The rocks thudded shut behind them, sealing their rear in silent judgment. They sailed on beneath cloudless skies where the sun pounded their backs with unrelenting heat. By the time they reached Colchis' golden shores, the air hung heavy with humidity. The fleece hung in a sacred grove, its wool glowing in dappled shade. A dragon guarded the prize, its scales glinting under sunlight and its slitted eyes burning emerald. Its hiss rolled through the grove along curling smoke. Medea, the sorceress princess, emerged with raven hair brushing her shoulders. Her incantations softened the dragon's breaths, and its coils unwound with a sigh. Jason crept forward, each step hushed against the velvet carpet of fallen leaves. He plucked the fleece, its warmth pulsing against his fingertips. Medea's loyalty shifted when Peleus broke his promise, and she steeled herself to betrayal. She baked her brother Absyrtus into a feast, his flesh staining the banquet table crimson. She fled with Jason under moonlight that dripped silver through cedar boughs. Their flight bore them across storm-tossed waves, thunder crackling overhead. The Argo's timbers groaned under gusts that smelled of ozone. They evaded Colchian pursuers by sacrificing a ram, its fleece drifting behind them. They returned to Iolcus with the fleece held aloft as proof of a triumph that defied fate. The palace halls echoed not with cheers but with suspicion, for Medea's blood-stained secret clung to each footstep. Epic poems and vase paintings immortalized their voyage, each clay stroke capturing the fleece's shimmer. Their names echoed through courtyards, recited by priests under star-glazed skies. The Argo's timbers are said to whisper in ancient ruins, tracing salt-scratched lines of history. Their journey became a metaphor for ambition's double edge, where glory and treachery sailed side by side. The Golden Fleece glimmered in temples as both a symbol of divine favor and mortal cunning. Jason's expedition taught that heroes are forged not by birth but by the choices that cleave through storm and shadow. In every retelling, the shiver of salt-slick decks still stirs restless longing. And thus the Argonaut's odyssey endured, a beacon of hope and warning for generations adrift on life's vast sea. What if love could transform a heart into a weapon? Medea pledged her devotion to Jason beneath olive-scented moonlight that draped the grove in silvery glow. Her incantations crackled with arcane energy, tasting of iron on her tongue. In betraying her royal kin, she forged a vengeance brighter than dawn's first embers. That vengeance toppled Peleus beneath Corinth's marble colonnade at blood-red dusk. Jason watched from shadowed corridors as the usurper's daughters butchered their father with trembling hands. The air hung heavy with the coppery tang of spilled life. Meanwhile, Medea wove curses from strands of night that hissed like living serpents. Her emerald eyes glowed under candlelight, flitting across Jason's guilt-laden face. Their union shattered hospitality's bonds, as a tempest shatters fragile glass. Corinthian elders recoiled from betrayal's scent that clung to every feast plate. Exile became Jason's fate, his footsteps echoing like a funeral march through silent streets. The sky turned ashen, its clouds pregnant with unspent storms. Thus they fled beneath the roar of gathering thunderheads. Medea clutched her children close, their hair damp with dew. In her anguish, she slaughtered them, their cries reverberating off cold stone. Lightning rent the sky above the palace as walls drank their sorrow. Her grief crystallized into ice that coated her heart. In Corinth's sunlit courts, Jason sought solace but found only whispers. Guilt weighed on him like an anchor, dragging him into dark waters. Medea's name became a curse on every tongue. Poets etched her tragedy into basalt tablets, each line trembling with injustice. She boarded a dragon-drawn chariot, its scales molten bronze in the torchlight. The wheels scorched the earth, leaving trails of smouldering ash. She vanished beyond the horizon where sea and sky bled into one void. Jason wandered hollow halls where shadows flickered like dying embers. His pleas to Artemis died against marble pillars bearing her emblem. Memory immortalized their downfall as a cautionary tapestry. In every recounting, her vengeance shimmered like lightning across a storm-dark sea. Statues of Jason lay broken in abandoned temples, their gazes fractured by regret. Medea's exile echoed through Delphi's sacred oaks. Her magic lingered in the air like the scent of ozone. Survivors whispered her legend by torchlight, each word crackling like embers. The tale warned that passion can bloom in darkness and wither into ruin. Her children's blood-stained myths pages like ink on fragile parchment. Betrayal's scent remained woven through Corinth's bougainvillea-scented streets. The gods turned away, appalled by mortal cruelty's new heights. Yet secret devotees honored her fierce autonomy and hidden rites. Jason's sorrow unraveled him like rope fraying under strain. His legacy collapsed into cautionary lore, a mirror for any who dare love with poison-laced thunderbolts. Medea's vengeance endured in tragedies echoing through hushed amphitheaters. Audiences felt her resolve descend like moth wings on their spines. Her story became a dark beacon of love's capacity to wound as deeply as any sword. Each retelling carried the metallic taste of guilt. In Corinth's ruins, travelers claimed to hear a mother's lament in the night wind. Memory engraved her saga into the collective heart as a spectre of consequence. Even now, her name draws gasps in classical corridors. She taught that bonds of the heart can twist into the cruelest chains. Ultimately, Jason and Medea's downfall cast a long shadow over heroism's golden sheen. Their legacy warns that the brightest love can turn to darkest regret when trust is shattered. What if a golden apple held the power to reshape the world? At a lavish feast on Mount Pelion, Eris, goddess of discord, entered unannounced and flung a golden apple inscribed, "To the fairest," into the revelry. The apple gleamed before Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite, their tempers flaring like sparks on heated metal. Zeus, unwilling to choose, passed the impossible decision to Paris, a Trojan prince tending sheep beneath windswept skies. Paris's fateful verdict awarded Aphrodite's promise, Helen, Sparta's queen revered in sculpted bronze. Menelaus's household fell into stunned silence at word of her betrayal. The stolen queen's memory permeated Laconian halls with the scent of olive oil. Paris whisked Helen across wine-dark seas to Troy's ancient ramparts. Salt spray stung the eyes of vigilant sentinels along the Aegean shore. The oath-bound muster of Greek heroes assembled at Aulis, where Agamemnon rallied kings beneath clouded skies. Rows of tents stretched across the plains beneath a leaden sky. Iphigenia's sacrifice was demanded, her pale hands trembling beneath the torch-lit altar. The Greek fleet set sail at sullen dawn, their hearts laden with dread. The sea lapped the oaken hulls with a rhythmic hiss. Soon, Troy's walls appeared against a rose sky. The siege dragged on through 9 summers and winters. Grief carved into the battered ramparts. Soldiers' cries echoed across dust-choked courtyards. Hope flickered when Odysseus conceived the idea of a wooden horse beneath a moonless sky. The beast's hollow belly smelled of pine resin. A select band of Greeks concealed themselves within, their armor clanking as they shifted. The Trojans paraded the horse through the gates, their voices rising in triumph. In the hushed twilight glow, Greek warriors slipped out and silenced the city's guard. Troy's proud streets erupted in chaos as the hidden raiders flung open its gates. Flames consumed palaces, acrid smoke, filling marble corridors. Priam's lament rose over the fire, his voice cracking with grief. Cultural memory preserved Troy's fall in epic verse and painted vases. Agamemnon returned triumphant, but soon met a bloody end in Mycenae, his deathbed gleaming under torchlight. Clytemnestra advanced with blade in hand, her footsteps silent as a viper's strike. Orestes avenged his father's murder, beneath a sky bruised by remorse. Odysseus embarked on his Nostos, his raft cutting through foam-sprayed waters. He encountered the Cyclops Polyphemus, whose single eye glowed in the cavern's darkness. By scorching the giant's sight, Odysseus learned that cunning could outshine brute force. He navigated past the sirens whose song lured sailors with its haunting melody. His sailors rowed with ears stopped by wax, their arms burning with exertion. They landed on Circe's isle, where her hall exhaled the scent of wild flowers. There, her magic transformed men into swine, until Odysseus's resolve restored them. After harrowing trials with Scylla and Charybdis's roar, he clung to hope. Ultimately, he washed ashore Ithaca's coves, disguised under a sea-green cloak. The salt air mingled with the perfume of orange blossoms as he reclaimed his kingdom. His bowstring's twang shattered the silence in the candlelit hall. Cultural memory cast his Nostos as the epitome of endurance beneath capricious gods. Yet Troy's ghost lingered in the ruins, whispers drifting through hollow corridors. The judgment of Paris taught that divine favour was as dangerous as it was coveted. The Trojan War's saga became an allegory for human hubris entangled with cosmic designs. Monuments of broken columns stand in fields, echoing clashes of bronze and wills. Poetic voices across millennia have woven its threads into the tapestry of Western thought. Today, scholars still debate whether destiny or choice guided that fateful judgment on Ida's slopes. Each retelling brings back the scent of burning timber that revives the epic's pulse. The golden apple's gleam remains a symbol of desire's peril and the fragility of mortal peace. Ultimately, the saga reminds us that a single spark of vanity can ignite even the mightiest of cities. As our voyage through these ancient sagas settles into stillness, let the final glimmer of Olympus's torchlight fade into gentle dusk. You'll feel the smooth coolness of marble under your fingertips and hear the soft sigh of olive branches swaying in an evening breeze. If you haven't yet fallen asleep, leave a comment below so I know who stayed up longer than I have. Now, lean back, close your eyes, and let the whispered wisdom of gods carry you into a peaceful reverie until our next journey.